Hello, we're back with another podcast with Lynn Sells, and today we'll be talking about his crimes that he committed during his lifespan.
During his time, Sells claimed to have murdered 70 people. His first being in 1979 when he was 15 years old, and he murdered the man who he believed was molesting a boy. By the time Sells was 18, he murdered 3 people. Sells did not have a limit to who he murdered. He would murder people that were newborns and middle-aged people. He had a murder on July 5th, 1979 in Port Gibson, Mississippi, and he murdered a man named John Cade. He shot Cade with a .32 caliber revolver. He often did murder children. On July 31st, 1983 in St. Louis, Missouri, he also married Colleen and Tiffany Gill by bludgeoning them. Colleen was 33 years old and Tiffany was 4 years old. On July 26, 1985, in Springfield, Missouri, Sells murdered Anna and Rory Court. He slashed their throats and bludgeoned them with a baseball bat. Anna was 28 years old and Rory was only 4 years old. In 1987, he did have a big string of murders, with this first being in May 1st in Lockport, New York. Suzanne Corks. She was 27 years old and her body was found until September 5th, 1995. On October 15th in Lovelock, Nevada, Stephanie Straw was 20 years old and Sells murdered her by strangling her. Her body was never found. On November 17th through 18th in Illinois, he murdered the Dardine family. Keith Dardine was a father who was shot 3 times, and he had his head cut off, and he also had his genitals cut off. He was 29 years old. Peter Dardine was 3 years old, and he was a son. He was beat to death with a baseball bat. Casey was a daughter. She was also beat with a baseball bat. And Elaine Dardine was 30 years old. She was raped, had her breast mutilated, and then she was fatally beat to death with a baseball bat. In 1988, on September 11th in Salem, New Hampshire, Melissa Tremblay was 11 years old, and she was raped and stabbed, and then she was ran over by a train after she passed. Her body was found the next day. On December 18th in Tucson, Arizona, Kent Lawton was 51 years old, and she was stabbed, and her body was found also 2 days later. On December 19, 1991, Mariana, Florida, Teresa, and Tiffany Haw were both beat to death by a wooden table leg. Teresa was 25 years old, and Tiffany was 5 years old. On May 13, 1992, in Charleston, West Virginia, Fabian Witherspoon was 20 years old, and she was raped and stabbed 18 times and then beat to death with a piano stool. She ended up surviving. In 1997, on October 13th, in Lawrenceville, Illinois, Joel Kirkpatrick and Julie Ray Harper were stabbed, and only Joel was stabbed and Julie Ray Harper was assaulted. On October 15th in Springfield, Missouri, Stephanie Mahaney was a 13-year-old who was sitting in her front yard and was abducted by Sells. Then he proceeded to drug, rape her, and strangle her. Her body was found on November 18th. In 1999, on April 4th, in Gibson, Tennessee, Deborah Harris and Ambria Halliburton were raped and stabbed, and he left the knife in her chest. These were just some of Sells' murders, which he claimed to be the one responsible. These were most of the murders before he was arrested for the murder of Kaylin Harris on December 21st, 2000.